This is Legends and Libations.
Sipping through history.
Let the journey begin.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Legends and Libations podcast.
Where we are continuing the sip through history.
We never stop sipping through history.
Stop sipping through history. Yeah, so...
How you doing, Jesse?
Oh, it's been a good week. It's been a very good week, and I'm excited to be back actually recording. I've been spending a lot of time with this legend. A little too much, honestly.
That's good. Usually I feel like I'm the one that's spending too much time with our legend, but... on this one's going to be more in the vein of like a story or...
Yeah. If you guys recall our Momotaro story where we went through the legend of a person, this is going to be the same context here. We are going over the famous, well, maybe not so famous, Celtic story of Sir Orfeo.
Sir Orfeo. I had never heard about Sir Orfeo before you told me about this.
Yeah, I honestly think most people have not heard of Sir Orfeo.
Based on how many videos I found on YouTube, which I'll talk about in a little bit, no one else has heard of it either.
Yeah, 12 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So also, for those who have been listening to us and those who are new, this is actually our first actual recorded episode where we have a video recording.
Video. We tried to do a video before. We had some technical difficulties, but
so hopefully this one is...
got a new webcam and we are up and running, and we will hope to get it out for you guys. Along with the audio version as well.
Yeah. So if you're used to listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you're welcome to continue. But we will also be putting all of our podcasts also on YouTube.
Along with our back catalog of 6 episodes that we have so far.
Yeah. Not that we've been doing this too long.
But I'm really excited about the drink today. I've something that I've never had before, and I've got pretty high expectations for it. Tell us about what we're drinking today, Jesse.
Okay, so today we're drinking the famous Green Fairy.
Oh, the Green Fairy.
Also known as absinthe.
I thought absinthe was like illegal or something.
Yeah, in legend, absolutely. I feel like this is one of the more legendary drinks that are actually doing on this podcast.
Oh, most definitely. Like you could probably do a whole episode about absinthe itself.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I could just keep... There's so many stories about it.
Exactly.
But, the whole reason it became famous is allegedly because of the wormwood in it.
What is wormwood? Like a root or something? I'm not exactly sure what wormwood is.
Yeah.
There's something in the Bible about like the wormwood falling from the sky. And like it's like Satan though, I think. I'm not sure 100% if like that's what it means, but
yeah, I feel like this is something I really should have looked up before, and I was like, wormwood, I accept this.
No, because I should have looked it up too, I admit, but I knew in advance that the kind of absinthe that's made today is not made the same way as like Ernest Hemingway's absinthe or Van Gogh's absinthe.
Mind you, that's what they say, but there's also a lot of claims that this is the exact same kind, but that it was just such a potent alcohol compared to what was usually made,
right?
That it just made you think. So the whole thing is that it apparently made you hallucinate,
right?
Which is part of the reason it's called the Green Fairy.
What Jesse's saying is that the reputation of absinthe carries with it some sort of hallucinogenic properties.
Yeah.
Like it's almost in the same vein as like LSD and like mushrooms and stuff like that. Like when you hear stories about it, it makes you think about those kind of drugs.
When you think of the people who really drank it, like Oscar Wilde, Van Gogh, Hemingway, you're seeing these people who are like artists. And it's one of the things that absinthe is like considered one of those things that inspired artists, but also madness.
It's one of those muse type substances.
Yeah, it's very bohemian. Bohemian.
Goes back to the main reference that I have for absinthe is in the Johnny Depp movie called From Hell, where he's investigating the Jack the Ripper murders in Whitechapel, England, and around the turn of the century, around the 1900s. And he does this like really awesome scene where he lights the sugar cube, which we're going to try to do live for you guys.
Yeah, we'll try to. And of course, that is actually considered the Bohemian way.
Okay.
Absinthe is like the burning sugar cube on top of it.
Is it also the Bohemian way to do a bunch of opium like right after, like Johnny Depp does?
Yeah, but I don't think we'll partake on that.
Okay.
for our own sake.
It's not a 2-part ritual. We couldn't get our opium guy to come through for.
Yeah, too bad.
Yeah.
Too bad. So this is actually by the company, and I'm probably pronouncing this wrong. Absentee, absentee.
Absentee? I don't know. Absente.
And this is the first.
Well, if it's French, you like knock off all the letters at the end, so it'd just be like abs.
Some abs. Yeah. So this is apparently the first one that was allowed in the U.S. after the 1912 ban on absinthe in America.
So we banned it in 1912.
Yeah.
Okay.
When this came to us, well, I don't know, but
We're talking about like 2000s, or was it banned like just for like a little bit during Prohibition
I
times,
think
or
this was banned for a
long time? Okay.
This cool box has like a Van Gogh picture on it that's really trippy.
It really gets you in the mindset of what absinthe is supposed to allegedly make you feel like.
Yeah, and it comes with this cool absinthe spoon, so you can like burn the liquor, or put the sugar cube in it. So very, very cool. Like,
So we're gonna try to do the drink for you here and see how it goes. We're gonna do it the Bohemian Johnny Depp style.
Yeah. We have to, right? So this thing is 110 proof. So if you there's a whole drink about this, like that. Okay, so there's a Hemingway drink that actually comes from his book, Death in the Afternoon. That
makes sense.
Do absinthe and champagne.
Mix champagne together.
And the rules of it is you can drink 3 to 5 of them very slowly.
I don't know if that's classy or a cry for help, or both.
If I think of Hemingway, this could be a cry for help.
Exactly.
But I'm very excited to try this.
Have you had it before?
I've never tried it.
I've never had it before either.
Yeah, I haven't ever had the green fairy before. So let's see. Wow, it's actually pretty green too.
And so to prevent me from drinking so much absinthe, I divided my portion size separately from Jesse's portion size, so that as the podcast goes on, one of us, mainly me, will not be hogging most of our libation. We need the sugar cube, and the dropper is right there behind the sugar cubes.
So the idea is, if you're going to do it the Bohemian style, you need to put the sugar cube. You need to soak the sugar cube with the apple.
Oh, soak it. That sounds like a good idea.
Well, no, you can't like just straight soak it, because then it'll fall apart, right?
I have no idea, dude. We just started and already spilled some on the table.
Well, that's okay. I think I'm okay with it spilling on a table. Here.
We got to do yours first, because
we only have one.
We only have one of the fancy spoons that came with this. All right.
So let's go ahead and see how this goes.
Torch it.
It's on fire, but
I saw it kind of like light up on fire for a bit. Good thing we have this industrial torch right here.
Yeah,
it's caramelizing.
It's caramelizing. Okay, so it didn't catch on fire as much as I thought it would.
No, it definitely did not.
Yeah, I was expecting a lot more fire there, but
so the traditional preparation involves pouring the water over it, right?
Yes, and so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm pouring water to mix with it.
And the water should disintegrate the cube.
Should.
But the water's kind of cold, so I don't know if it's going to do as good as if it were hot water.
Well, a lot of times what they do is they
didn't have cold water back in the day, so like, you know,
they had the mix machine. So I think worst comes to worst, we'll just
dump the sugar cube in there and stir it up.
Well, that's what I've seen most videos of it do, and actually it's dissolving quite nicely in there.
It is. It's kind of like hollowing out in the middle.
Yeah, you have the nice crusted side. It kind of turns into like a nice milky green color.
Exactly. I don't know about nice milky green color. I feel like this is like definitely not the same color as most libations that we have. I was surprised that it was green. Like, I heard it's called the green fairy, but you know, most things, like, they aren't the color they're supposed to be when you pour them out of their green container.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of a cool color green, but now it's like it turns into like a milky green color once you put the sugar cube in it.
Did you soak yours?
I did.
Did you, like,
I totally
doused it.
Yeah, and again, it wasn't particularly like roasty though. Like, I didn't find that very.
Right.
It's not like a marshmallow. I was going for marshmallow.
I thought I was gonna melt like an ice cube when we did it.
Yours? Well, yeah, obviously it looks really good when you're putting a torch on it. Oh, yours.
There we
A
go.
little bit like a candle. Holy smokes. Oh, well.
Oh, it went out. Maybe they should soak in it like ahead of time.
Yeah. Well, maybe they need to. But a lot of the videos were just like this. I could not find a very... Yours is just still going.
Got a little bit burned to it. They're gonna be like, I can't see any of this on the video at home.
Yeah, well, if you're watching this, sorry guys, first time for us. Also.
Yeah, we're learning as we go here.
Yeah, we don't actually know what we're doing. We're just doing this with you guys.
Okay, I guess I'm probably gonna need some water.
Yeah, here's some water.
Thank you. It's burning. Look at that.
Yeah, maybe I should have tried harder. The story of my life. Tried harder.
Okay, we're gonna pour some on it and then see if we can get it to dissolve.
It should dissolve relatively nicely. We'll see though.
I feel like it's just like counterbalancing the heat of the torch that we just did.
I don't think that's gonna burn
No,
anymore.
probably
You like extra toasty.
Okay. I concede.
You concede?
Yeah, I'm just gonna dump it in there. Get in there, dude. There we go.
There we go. All right.
All right.
Set
So
up and we'll see how this goes.
so far for preparation, I would give a better in theory than in practice.
Yeah. Like in theory, it's gonna look great.
Yeah.
If you are like, yours is way less milky than mine. I think you made yours too crispy. All right. So yeah, let's go ahead and try
My
this.
sugar's like all at the bottom, and you're like yours is like really nice.
Yeah.
All right, let's try
Mine
it.
does look nice. Mine looks really like cloudy and ghosty. Okay, let's try this.
Okay, they're gonna taste different. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's not what I thought it was gonna taste like.
Um.
Yours is probably sweeter than mine because mine's like concentrated at the bottom, but I like the way that it tastes.
It's like licorice.
It's like licorice that's on fire a little bit.
Is yours really smoky tasting?
It has a flavor like it doesn't want to sit on your tongue, like it's like sitting above in the palate in your mouth before you swallow it down. It's like it has a body all to itself.
Yeah, it's star anise that comes out in that. I wish I could just bite on the wormwood and then I would know. So apparently,
I don't even know where that comes from.
Wormwood apparently has what's it called? I cannot pronounce this, but I think it's thuojome or thuogome. It's thujome, which is known to actually be highly. It can cause you to convulse if you have it in high doses.
Oh, it's one of those things.
Yeah, and I mean,
So it's like ketamine.
yeah, like, if we have if we had a lot of it, it could ruin us.
Oh, that's not good.
But
No wonder.
it's really like
No wonder it was illegal.
yeah. So wormwood, right?
This is from the days when they put like cocaine in Coca-Cola and stuff like that, and they're like,
exactly. Things were okay.
your soft drinks had a baseline of cocaine, so your alcoholic drinks had a baseline of paralytic drugs in them.
So this is the Green Fairy, and
I see why it's called the Green Fairy.
yeah, has that. Yeah, very much so. And I wonder if we'll feel more creative by the end of this.
I don't know. Maybe we want to like paint some 3D images or
I'm
something
ready
like
for
that.
it.
Yeah,
If it happens.
give it our best go.
Would painting 3D images simply be
Sculpting, probably.
need a sculpture?
Maybe so. Well, it's like how you hear about the Greek statues all being painted back in the day in Greece, and that nowadays that it's just they're worn off. So they were brightly colored before.
Yeah, we imagine Rome to be so pale and white.
Go to YouTube at home if you haven't heard of this before, and like Google what ancient Greece looked like with the colored statues, and they're like 3D renderings.
It's great.
And it looks way different than like how you envision it in your head based on what's left.
We always, it's weird how we all assume like, oh yeah, it was all like whitewashed, but it wasn't at all.
It's like how you think about the past as being in black and white because they had the TVs were in black and white back then.
We long for a time where there was no color.
Yes.
So yeah, well, okay. So how does this relate to Sir Orfeo? Well, Sir Orfeo is a Celtic legend, and it has so much to do with fairies or fey creatures.
Mm-hmm.
something that we when I say fairies, what do you think of usually?
Well, I think fairies has been very Disney-fied
Yeah.
over the years, because when you think of fairies nowadays, you automatically think like probably Tinkerbell. It would be the big one. I think about Thumbelina.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Thumbelina was good. I'm not sure if they're
I
actually
think that
fairies.
was like my little kid crush.
Oh, really? Thumbelina?
I remember that, or Kim Possible, one or the other.
Oh, yes. Always loved Kim Possible. But I know that fairies has like a dark side to it as well.
Yeah,
Much like most of those Disney-fied stories.
Yeah.
Is that fairies would like steal people from the forest. They would lure them into unsuspecting terrains where you would like feel like you were like walking on a loop in the forest somewhere, or like somewhere you've never been. And the next thing you know, that the sun has like gone up and gone down, and that it's been like 24 hours and you haven't made it back to your car, and you should have been there like an hour ago.
Okay, this is perfectly what we need to go into, because like fairies. We used to have a book when we were kids that my mother always had these. She would make these little fairy houses and put them out in the woods or put them around.
Oh, really?
So we like really thought like that kind of Celtic feel was around us, but also she had this book that was just about different types of fairies.
Oh, really? What are the different types of fairies that you remember?
God, there was literally probably 100 of them in there. One that really scared us as kids was the Jenny Greenteeth. We had a creek that went through our front yard.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny Greenteeth was known for pulling children, and she's quite I think 17th century or something, or 60. I mean, she's much older than that, but the art that we looked at was like maybe from then. But she was like, obviously it's like, hey, don't let your children play around the creek.
Okay, so like a cautionary tale.
Yeah, cautionary tale, but she would pull the kids in. There was quite a few others. One of the things I remember is the fairy circles. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, people would step into these like mushroom circles.
And that would be where the time would shift.
They would like party for the night, dance, and then they would come out in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like Rip Van Winkle sort of thing.
Oh yeah. And I think this might really engage with the story we're in today. So Sir Orfeo is actually a Celtic adaptation or rendering of the old Greek story of Orpheus.
Don't call it an adaptation, just call it like a straight up plagiarism of Sir Orpheus. It's like you copied and pasted Sir Orpheus and you changed some of the main words to be your own language, and we changed it to Sir Orfeo.
Yeah. Well, in the medieval world, there's like, okay, so first they're not sharing ideas with the whole world, right? Mm-hmm. If you remember,
it's back in the day, we're like pre-internet, so you could get away with some blatant plagiarism back then,
and it wasn't considered plagiarism. It was considering giving honor,
right?
To old So like whenever Virgil copied Homer's work of the Iliad and the Odyssey and made his Aeneid, that was not a problem. Even though there was obviously like direct using of those texts, it wasn't a problem, because what was happening is he's first giving honor to Homer and then adapting it to his.
It's a flattering sort of thing.
Exactly, it's a flattering thing, and the Celt. If you guys remember back then, or a few episodes ago, I talked a little bit about how the Irish saved civilization. Well, that book kind of comes up again in this situation where this is after the Irish had considerable amount of writing and Western, like they were developing the Western European culture. And so one of the things that happens is they know all these Greek tales and they're retelling them in their own way.
And that's a good thing for their culture. Like it brings the story to their people who otherwise couldn't probably enjoy it.
What does a Greek story have to do with me?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And that's why I don't want to be too hard on them for like plagiarizing the story, is because first of all, it's in a different language. And second of all, it's hundreds of years, if not millennia later.
And as you guys will tell through this video or through this recording, is that they do significantly change some stuff.
So do we know who wrote Orpheus?
They got it from Virgil. Virgil has a rendering of it in the Georgics. It's on the 4th book of the Georgics.
But Virgil is Roman. Okay.
It's Roman, yeah.
Okay.
So they probably didn't have the Greek copies, but they may have.
Okay.
They probably didn't.
So if the source material is anonymous, pretty much, right? Yeah, well, so we don't know who wrote the source material for it.
We have quite a few people who wrote,
who could have written it, who have adapted it through the years. Okay,
we know a few Greek writers, but we're mostly coming from Virgil. And then what's happening here is we don't actually know who wrote Sir.
We don't know who. That's what I was getting at. Is that it's not that much plagiarism if it's an anonymous author. They're not claiming ownership of it.
Not at all. If you guys are watching the video, right in the front here, I have a book. It's J.R.R. Tolkien's translation of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, The Pearl, and Sir Orfeo. It's a very good translation.
This was one that his son found, like the manuscripts for, I think.
His son Christopher,
and they were just translations, and he put them all in a compilation and released them after Tolkien's death. Yeah.
Oh, but what a tremendous translation! Very much. I was reading the old English of it.
How did you even do that?
Very, very tactfully. It was a task. It was a task.
Let me tell you, I did my usual thing where I look on YouTube for videos, and there was maybe less for this than there was for Momotaro on YouTube. But the only things that I did find would be these women who had extremely short haircuts, like a page boy from medieval times. So the medieval haircut to go with a medieval story. And they would be accompanied by or playing a harp themselves, and they would like sing it to you. Because I guess it's supposed to be sung. I don't know if you call it do you call it a poem?
It's actually considered a Breton lay. So yeah, you would sing it.
Well, I'm going to say it's like a poem.
It is a poem. It is a type.
It's like a song, basically.
Yeah. You would sing this in like a hall kind of thing, right?
Okay. And they would sing it to you. And the one lady who sang it in the Middle English, they put subtitles at the bottom of the screen so that you would be able to understand what she was saying, because you could not gather it from the Middle English exactly. Some words were like understandable a little bit, and you could see like where they got the modern English versions from, but a lot of it, if you were just listening to it, I don't think I'd be able to understand it.
Well, yeah, and also the Middle English we come from more is like Chaucer. It's going to be a lot more related to our own language than.
This is why people have like the Spark Notes version of things, where it gives you like the TLDR version of it.
Read the Spark Notes and then read it, right? So, yeah, well, you mentioned the harp. The harp is such a big element of this story.
I've never listened to as much harp music in my life as I have when I was researching this. I've heard the harp more lately than I ever have.
Yeah, and it's the Celtic harp, right? So it's a little smaller.
Are there other harps?
Yeah, there's huge harps.
Oh, no, it was not a huge harp. But I was really impressed with like the way that these women were playing the harps. I'd never heard that much like they would tell you the story and they would illustrate like the parts on the harp through the music, because I guess you can hit 10 strings at one time or whatever, so you're just like boom, and you have this like a really dissonant chord to like indicate there's some suspense or some drama happening. I thought that was pretty awesome.
Oh, and of course the harp, I mean, like if you think of it, like what's on the Guinness can, right? A harp. Guinness was going to be my other drink if I couldn't find any absinthe for this, the Green Fairy. But then also, it's Ireland's main, like, symbol.
Is the harp?
Yeah, it's like a national symbol.
I didn't know that.
The harp is incredible because it's telling us something else. Minstrels, bards. What do you think when you think about a bard or a minstrel?
I think about sort of like a song-bearing person coming to court, traveling on foot, and trying to earn their favor with the royalty.
Absolutely.
By playing a song and entertaining them.
Yeah, certainly there's a part of bards that are entertaining. Now, let us go back to the ancient.
You don't necessarily like them off the bat. They sort of kind of have to prove themselves to you before you want to like keep them around or whatever. And if they do a really good job, you'd be like, hey, maybe get a residency here and play for a few weeks before we send you on your way, before you play the same songs too many times.
I honestly thought of Dungeons and Dragons, the bard.
I kind of thought about that too. Yeah, exactly.
The bard class. So you play music, magic music.
Yeah.
And then it does something like cool, like,
oh yeah,
I don't know.
There's a really interesting bard section in the D&D guidebook that we got, because Jesse introduced me to D&D. And I've got to say that has been a lot more fun than I ever anticipated.
Yeah, if you guys haven't played D&D, it's pretty fun.
It's not just for nerds.
Yeah, not just for nerds, but
that should be the tagline for it, really.
Just for nerds. All right. So one of the things, if you think about bards from ancient cultures, like like Homer, for example, in the Odyssey, the bard is the only one spared when Odysseus like rips apart all the suitors who are like
Really?
hanging out at his house. He spares the bard. Well, why would he spare the bard?
Entertainment value.
Well, yeah, and also Homer was a bard, so he's like, you want to spare him.
Do you remember that horrible movie that I told you that I watched for El Dorado? The one that was the Werner Herzog? Yeah. Okay, so when like all their people were dying along the Amazon River, one of the guys that they kept alive for the long time was a bard. And they let him just like play his song on the thing, and he got fed and got to stay around, even though his song was terrible and redundant. But he was one of the last ones alive.
Yeah, it's partly entertainment, but there's also like a bard is first, if you're going to have a hero, who's going to tell their story?
The bard.
Who's going to tell the history of a country? This is before written language.
That's a good point.
So who's going to keep the stories alive? Who's going to keep the history alive? Who's going to keep the religion alive? There is no writing for the most part when there's these early bards. They're the ones keeping the civilized world, or their such civilized world, together. These bards,
oral tradition.
Yeah, the oral tradition.
They got to be good because it's got to be like a earworm sort of thing.
Yeah, well,
where you could recite it, other people want to sing it too.
Little catchy.
And exactly.
And can be shared with others. In fact, there would be bards that would train under other bards as like lore masters, right? And that was so very necessary for the civilization to have identity.
So it's sort of like American Idol bard version, because the bad bards are not getting tenured at their jobs, and they're not making the catchiest songs. So we got the best guys coming up with the best bards, preserving the history.
And they often would sing the songs of like their own who's their patron, like
exactly. Got to make them look good. It's sort of like the painters would like paint the nobles really good looking to
but they
keep their jobs.
A little bit of permission to critique because they're the storytellers. So
I've seen some of those old paintings, so I imagine that they did have a little bit of free leadway with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so bards were a very necessary part. So imagine if you couldn't go to school to learn history, couldn't go to school to learn like the literature.
You can't go to Wikipedia to learn it.
You can't go to school to learn theology. Like these are the guys who are doing it. A lot of people don't think about it, but even early parts of like Genesis in the Bible are sung. And then we get the sung tradition finally written down, and then we start compiling it with other traditions,
right? To fact check it, sort of thing.
Eventually becomes
corroborate.
Genesis, which is a collaboration of sung tradition and written tradition, and it's super beautiful.
I really like this idea though. Like it's a refining of the story from different sources, and whichever one was like the dominant one, I guess, would be. It kind of conflicts a little bit with like the history is written by the victors thing.
Yeah.
But
because it's a collaboration rather. It's not just written by the victors, because the victors didn't, unless they
had a bard.
Unless they got rid of everyone or something. There's other people who are speaking into the tradition, right?
I like that.
So bards are really, really necessary. Well, and so Sir Orfeo, who we meet, is both a king of
what are the odds of that?
Yeah, he's a bard king. And
that's his class, his D&D class.
His D&D class is a bard. He's the king of Winchester, which is in Anglo-Saxon Wessex. So it's not in England as we know it, but Anglo-Saxon Wessex.
So I was wanting to do some research for this specifically because the UK is one of those like hot spots for fairy activity. Because I'm big into like paranormal stuff, and a lot of like you have different parts of the world are known for different sort of paranormal things. Like crop circles is one of the big things that happens in England specifically. Like 90% of the world's crop circles happen in this like one little county. But fairy sightings is another big thing that happens specifically in England as well. And I wanted to see if Winchester, is that where you said it was?
Yeah, Winchester, yep.
Happens to correspond with the modern day. Okay, Winchester is its modern day place right now. Back in the day of Sir Orfeo, it was known as Thrace. I think, which is mentioned in the Bible, probably.
Or
is this a different Thrace?
Sir Orfeo mentions Thrace because maybe they're trying to make that Greek reference or something.
Oh, okay, and that's why they. There's a little bit more of that later on too, with the very beginning part with Juno.
They're making they touch on Greek references without making it the same, right? it's such an interesting.
They're trying to like legitimize it, I feel like.
Yeah, well, legitimize it and also make it their own tradition, right? So it starts with Sir Orfeo as King of Winchester, and he is the best harpist. He can play that harp like a madman.
He can make it sound like Billy Strings makes the acoustic guitar sound.
Yeah, he's like a rock star. We really like what Sir Orfeo can do with this, and it calms people. It brings people this like, I don't know, divine kind of feel.
I heard that even the gods stopped what they were doing and paid attention when Sir Orfeo was playing his harp.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, and then what happens here is, and this is kind of a cool place because in the Catholic tradition, there's the sacraments. These are places where you have divine experiences that are set forth in the church. I wonder if this one's going to catch this.
I'm not sure. I tried to soak it. I'm going to like accidentally torch and like set my entire goblet on fire.
I mean, that one's staying pretty good.
I'm always blocking it.
It's a good fire.
We're still going, guys.
We're still on fire. Okay.
It just went out.
There it was. Well, looks good. So anyways, what's happening in this tradition of Celtic bardism is they're kind of lifting up this idea of the musician as this experience of the divine. So they're almost sacramentalizing the harp and it becoming a kind of divine experience, which becomes a huge tradition later on in the Protestant church, because it's like, well, how do you experience something divine? Oh, well, write a poem. Right. I know it doesn't sound crazy, but like it's really big when you think of poets like George Herbert or
dude, I don't know who George Herbert is.
or John Milton. Well, don't worry about it. He's not part of this. He's not part of this story. Hey, that one's a lot more milky now.
It is milky, and I don't know what I did differently.
Oh,
I still torched it, and I still soaked it. I don't know.
I guess maybe I'm pouring more water over it. I have no idea.
Maybe. Who knows?
So that is, I think, relatively cool. Is that like there's and the harp is also very associated with that which is divine.
Because you never hear about the harp in modern day unless it's associated with like cherubim or like heaven
exactly,
or something like that.
So it's a very divine reference. So we can assume that this story has a divine nature, which is kind of fun because it's an adaptation of a Greek myth. Celtic Christian tradition.
And with like the fairy aspect in general, it's like, is that the divine nature, or do you want to say separate divine and supernatural? Because I would say that it's more of like a supernatural reference with the fairies.
We'll come to that towards the end. We'll come towards. Okay. I think there's a both and, but I do actually want
both and. We like a both and.
Divine end here, yeah.
Okay.
So
how does the story start? We haven't even like gotten it out down to. We know Sir Orfeo plays the harp and that he's a king.
Yeah. So here he is. He's being a good king. People love, and he actually, unlike some traditions of like where the people don't have good relationships, he has a really good relationship with his wife.
Right.
Her name is. I'm probably going to pronounce this Herodes,
Herodes.
Yeah. Herodes. Yeah.
Because in the Greek with Orpheus, his wife is Eurydice. So it's sort of like an adaptation of that.
Okay. So you said Herodes?
Herodes. Yeah.
That's fair. I've always been
it's hard to do those names like that.
So very hard. So
this is Legends and Libations. This isn't academics and apple juice.
Yeah. Right.
Cheers.
Yeah, exactly. We're not drinking apple juice here, guys. So what happens is they're in the month of May. Well, month of May becomes a very associated with weird. Well,
really?
Well, yeah. You have the May Day celebrations in Europe. Right? The May Day celebrations are these weird, almost they come from a pagan tradition of celebrating like the coming springtime.
I didn't know that.
But they got brought right.
That's what I was going to say. Transitional time.
Yeah. But they got brought right into the Christian tradition where they're so common. But something always Fey-like happens during that.
Around May.
Yeah,
May,
always.
Fey. There we go.
They rhyme.
Got to look at the rhyming.
We know it's going to happen.
This one's a lot better. This one's better because it's milky.
Yeah, the milkiness is really a lot better. Okay, I'm glad to know that.
Don't know why, but it is.
But just probably less harsh. A little bit.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, so tell us how
So
Eurydice.
yeah. They have a very loving and affectionate relationship. He cares about her. She cares about him. Their relationship seems very, very beautiful, actually, when it first is depicted in the story. Well, anyways, one day she's like in May,
She's doing her thing.
yeah, she's like, you know what? I'm gonna go with some of my maidens, my lady.
The ladies in waiting.
Yeah, and we're gonna go.
My entourage.
Hang out in the orchard.
Yeah, as they do.
Yeah, which is nice. Well, and they go and sit below, or she sits under a tree. But this tree particularly is a grafted tree. Do you know what a grafted tree is?
I think it's where you take part of another tree or plant and you attach it to the main stalk of another tree.
Yeah.
To try to increase the yield or homogenize the yield to like make it more the same or consistent, I think.
Well, and grafting is such a cool experience. Like when people graft trees.
It's surprising that they got it, that they understood how to do it so far in the past too.
Yeah. Like you can take like the branch of an apple tree or a twig of an apple tree and put down a cherry tree and it can
still grow. Yeah, exactly.
Still grow and it produces apples.
Exactly.
There's a lot of assumption that this was either an apple or cherry.
That'd be like taking my arm off or putting it on, like if you were missing an
I just have
arm.
another arm.
Yeah, exactly. We're just like we're grafting body parts over here.
Oh, this is the Green Fairy talk.
There was that guy who was supposed to get like his head transplanted a few years ago. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, but I don't think it worked.
No, I think that he chickened out and that he didn't do it.
Well,
I want to look up and see. Okay, so it was probably like 10 years ago, maybe like 8 years ago or so, that the idea for him to do it is a Russian guy, by the way. Of course, this happens in Russia. Was going to get a whole head transplant because he was paralyzed, but he chickened out. And I think that maybe he did revisit the idea of it and that they might have gone through with it. But
yeah, I heard about it, but
that's the last that I
I
heard.
thought he passed. Or
All
I read
right.
about one where I don't know.
If
loose memory here on.
Yeah, no, me too. So if I'm wrong about this, I'm going to edit it out.
It probably was like a title something I scrolled through. So
anyway, grafted tree. Let's go.
She's sleeping under it, and she just like conks out, which that sounds like a perfect afternoon.
But we didn't talk about why the grafted tree is important for the story.
Well, I think we'll get into that.
Okay.
We'll get into it because what happens is I think kind of
You're right.
She wakes up in distress, almost crazy, like
she was scratching her face.
Yeah, scratching her face, clawing at like the people around. Like she's not okay, and the two maidens have to like call on some of the knights to go grab her. She is losing it.
Right.
You were just sleeping under a tree, girl. Like,
did she have like a dream or something?
Yeah. Well, she has a vision.
Okay.
And in this vision, two knight-like guys come, but these are everything they're wearing is very like a very like pear colored or linen colored.
Okay.
And they're very fair people. This is the first these are fey creatures. These are fairies. Now, when we think of fairies, we do think of like Disney's version of like Tinkerbell or something, but fairies are actually much closer related to J.R.R. Tolkien's elves. Yeah, exactly. They're much more like the elves. Mind you, Tolkien made his elves relatively benevolent. Relatively.
For the most part. Most of the elves are good, yeah.
But that is not
the case with most fairy sightings.
No.
Yes.
So they are beautiful people. They are very like humans at times, but they have a lot of magic attached to them, and they're a bit chaotic.
They're kind of tricksters or like
and they're
manipulators to an extent as well.
But never in this like way where it's like
an overt way.
Well, they have a different moral system. While we have a moral system put forth for us as humans, they don't respond to that. Their moral system is what is very natural. Have you ever heard of the philosophy of naturalism?
Maybe so.
It's whatever is natural is okay, which justifies a whole lot of horrible things.
This sounds like some Aleister Crowley
Right.
stuff.
Well, if we actually follow naturalism, what it's pretty much like what is in nature is moral. But there's some pretty horrid things.
Cannibalism, things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going straight for it, guys.
Yeah, we're going out there. So this is one of those things like the fey creatures are very much a symbol of nature and how nature doesn't follow the rules.
Right.
And so these two fairy knights are like, hey, you know what? You're going to come with us tomorrow and visit. You're going to come to the Fairy King. And she's like, no, I can't leave.
Right, of course,
she's
because she's the queen.
She's queen. She has business and she loves her husband. And from what I understand, they don't have kids yet, so they have they have like a long life ahead of them. And so what happens is, well, they're like, oh well, we're gonna go get the king. And so he comes back, the king with like 100.
This is the same day.
The same
Okay.
vision.
Same vision.
Same
Okay.
vision. And he comes with 100 knights, and he actually literally calls them like beautiful and fair.
She puts up some resistance
Yeah,
at
she
first and says that she doesn't want to go with
No,
him.
she doesn't want to
Okay.
go. Yeah, but he's like, well, okay, well, we're
That was the preliminary envoy.
Yeah.
She turned them down, gave them the
Yeah.
cold
I'm not
shoulder.
coming.
No, exactly.
I'm not going to hang
Stiff
out with
arm.
you guys. You can't sit with us.
Yeah.
Um,
So they go back and they tell on her, and
and so the king's like, you know
the
what?
king.
I'll come
yeah,
with 100 knights.
this is a priority.
Yeah, like, and for some reason, this is a priority. And he's like, you know what? You are going to come with me tomorrow. Well, no, he doesn't do that right away. Right? He actually is like, come ride with me. And he just kind of forces her on a pony. And they go ride together, and he shows her this magical kingdom. It's beautiful.
Is this kingdom like physically in the area where the kingdom was, or is this like another realm sort of dimension sort of
well,
thing?
because remember, she's sleeping. It's very other realm. It's otherworldly. They literally, she calls it the other world.
So it's hard to separate between the dream and reality at this point that she's having.
She's somewhere in this kind of in between space, which I think will go with the
Grafted tree.
We'll talk
Yes,
about that.
exactly.
So after that, the king brings her back and says, yeah, so meet me here tomorrow in the orchard. And
He was trying to impress her,
Yeah.
sort of things, a flex or whatever. He's
and
like,
it
look
was
at my
impressive.
kingdom. Yeah.
It was impressive. It was a very beautiful kingdom, but she loves her husband and she has a cool life. She's
Exactly.
queen.
She didn't want to go with this strange fairy king guy. Like,
Yeah,
she
yeah,
doesn't
like-
know him.
We don't know what he's up to.
No.
You don't take candy from strangers. That's what he's like, you know what? You're going to meet me here in the orchard tomorrow, same
Tomorrow.
time.
Same time, same place.
And he's like, and if you don't, I'll find you and tear you apart and bring you to my kingdom anyway.
The ultimatum.
Yeah. I mean,
What does she do?
well, she wakes up horrified.
And then she scratches her face.
Yeah, that's when she's scratching her face.
Yes.
And of course they run her to like kind of like a hospice place and then
And to the king.
yeah, the king comes and he talks to her. But before that, why are fey creatures here? So fey creatures are usually associated with forest.
Absolutely.
And we see in stories, definitely these kind of medieval stories, like Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. The Green Knight literally comes into the court on Christmas, in the Christmas season, which is again that kind of nature imposing itself where we don't want it. But,
Interesting. It's like nature spreading into the natural or into like the civilized world.
well, yeah, and of course there is like this civilized wall that's like, hey, this is civilized world. Out there is chaos. Out there is scary. You can't control the wild.
We like things that we can control, and we want to keep a barrier between us.
Yeah.
We don't like it when it bleeds over.
I mean, think about when your air conditioning goes down, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
we do not like when nature. I'm thinking of hurricanes that are coming through and stuff. We do not like when that happens because it disrupts our plans.
Like sometimes we have a symbiotic relationship with nature, but then a lot of times nature can throw a wrench in that and give you a tornado or a rogue wave, and like
And nature doesn't have the same moral system
or
so-
rules or any moral system.
Yeah, it can do whatever it wants. And so these fake creatures are representing that. Well, what is it? This grafted tree is in an orchard. Well, this orchard is a weird green space, but it's filtered through human hands.
Do you think that that's why they chose to appear in the orchard? Is because it was like humans trying to control nature?
Well, I think it's very much like the tree is literally.
It wasn't just a farm.
Yeah.
It was taking a tree that is the natural thing and saying, no, we don't want this to grow on it. We want this to
We're
grow on it.
imposing
Yes.
human will on it. And so there's this, but it becomes this weird Celtic thin space. I always heard about these thin spaces where it's
Window areas.
the spiritual world and the physical world like connect.
The veil is thin.
Yeah, this is one of those thin veil places where, because the tree is a natural tree, which is fey, and because human hands have grafted things in, that these two worlds are.
It was almost like a ritual to summon this like intentionally, but it was done unintentionally.
Exactly.
And it allowed the fairy space to like bump up against the human space. And
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
yeah,
I think there's a
started in a vision, but it came through.
Yeah.
It had real implications too.
Exactly. So that's my theory on the grafted tree. Unless, did you find anything else on it?
Dude, everything that I found on the grafted tree was way lamer than that. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was like, oh well, The grafted tree represents the harmony between men and like nature, and this is like the story.
I don't think it's harmony at all.
No, I think what you said was way better than the sources that I found on the internet.
There is no harmony here. This is, in fact,
You heard it right here. Legends and Libations. Jesse cracked the code.
This work has been so fun to kind of like read and go through. Well, anyways, one of the things that I'm kind of noticing with this is, this is how, and most of these things that J.R. Tolkien translates in this book, like Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, is this kind of struggle between what is religious and civilized and good and not necessarily
what is
bad,
chaotic.
Chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say evil. I want to say chaotic.
It makes you think about like the orcs and if they would be evil if there wasn't somebody leading them that was evil.
Yeah. Could they be a little bit nicer?
Right. I'm watching The Rings of Power with Casey.
Is it good?
And I initially tried to watch it. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it.
I initially tried to watch it when it came out because it was like, oh, they spent $1 billion on this Lord of the Rings adaptation, so it's got to be good. And it starts off really slow, like pretty painstakingly slow. And it seems like the actors aren't really giving convincing performances. And there's a lot of reasons to like turn it off after the first couple of episodes. But if you stick with it, I like it a lot.
So you got to stick with it.
You got to stick with it. It really expands on the lore of Lord of the Rings that we didn't have before or that wasn't put to screen before.
Yeah, it was probably in the Silmarillion.
Yeah, it shows you like, it totally was. That's where they got all the screenplays from, were adapted from the Silmarillion.
Oh, cool.
And they were giving you stuff from like the first age before like the second age happens, which implements the third or
brings upon the third.
Yes, bring upon the third age. And without that, the main Lord of the Rings story lacks a lot of depth that you get from the Rings of Power that I did not know before.
That's excellent to hear. I'm glad that they're working on that then.
And you see some sides of the orcs that you never saw before. Like there were orc families and like orc babies.
Oh no.
And I was like, oh, do I like the orcs? No. Do I feel sorry for them a little bit? Maybe.
Yeah, a little complicated now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, a lot of depth in the Rings of Power. Check it out.
Cool. Well, that Rings of Power is not supporting this podcast at all. Hopefully,
Amazon sponsorship.
Amazon sponsorship, maybe. No. Anyways, so her husband's like, "Oh no, what's going on? Why are you trying to claw your eyes out?"
That was just a dream, baby.
That was just a dream. Don't worry about it. And she's like, "Oh, this is what happened." She tells him about the vision. Mm-hmm. And again, this is one of those really sentimental moments where he actually seems to be comforting her, holding her, telling her it's going to be okay. And he's like, you know what? When you go to the orchard tomorrow, I'm going to send a whole bunch of knights to protect you.
Exactly. Because I'm the king and I can do that.
Because I'm the king and I'm going to do that. Send the whole police force.
I can spare them because I'm the king.
Yeah, exactly. And again, he's a good king who can play the harp really well.
Right.
People love hearing Sir Orfeo play the harp.
But I'm glad that he's not like a show off. He's not the John Mayer of the harp.
No.
He's not like, baby, get away from me. I'm playing the harp right now.
Mm-mm.
He's like, okay, well, I'm going to send my best guys to watch after you while you take a nap outside. You shouldn't even be taking a nap anyway because you probably had a great night's sleep last night because you weren't doing anything hard during the day. You're the queen. But because you want to take a nap in the orchard and you like that as part of your routine, I'm going to send my best guys.
My best guys are there.
Yeah.
James Bond and all the best.
Exactly.
King's men are with her.
The King's men. There we go. Yeah. That's what I was thinking about.
So, that is like, we think it's kind of settled there. It's like, well, if he has all those knights,
there's no way that she's going to get taken by
how
this fairy guy.
Yeah,
usurper.
Yeah, how's this usurper supposed to take? You know, I like this drink.
I'm glad that you like it. I like it too.
I have mixed feelings about it a little bit still. Like,
it's not something that you would order at like a bar unless you were planning on spending a long time there talking about Legends and Libations.
Yeah, that is true. I do not think I would, unless you had quite a few hours to.
And if they were able to light their sugar cube on fire very efficiently at a bar, I would suspect that they probably put lighter fluid on the sugar cubes ahead of time.
Yeah, they're like, well, let's put a whole bunch of lighter fluid on this. Anyways, so he puts his best knights on the job. Which is nice.
So they're like guarding her in like a circle sort of thing while she takes a nap under the grafted tree. This must have been a great spot to take a nap.
To risk it.
Yes, it must have had like the best grass and like the shade was there into the afternoon. English
pastoral land is just, I mean,
I've never seen it not during the wintertime.
Oh, no, it's just beautiful. So we're gonna light this one on fire.
There we go.
Oh,
look at that.
Look how crispy that is gonna get. Oh my god, that flame.
That one's staying really good.
Yeah, my goodness. Sorry guys, we're taking an interlude to just.
What did you do different?
I just really soaked it. Like just kept on putting.
I'm about to just drop it in the drink next time and then pull it out.
How are you gonna do that?
With a spoon.
Okay, I see. Well, it's still burning.
What's weird is that it's obviously the absinthe burning off of it because the sugar cube is mostly intact still.
Yeah. But that's okay. Yeah, because all the inside will like melt away. Oh, I know. Oh my god.
Wow.
That just melted right in there. Wow.
There's an ice cube.
Oh no. I'm getting water all over the place.
That's okay. That's why I got a tablecloth. We're official.
Yeah, we're official. We got tablecloths. That turned out really well. Okay, anyways. Sorry for the distraction, everyone.
Okay, so the guards are guarding her under her tree for her nap.
Yeah, the guard, she's like, I'm going to take my nap again. She's getting all cozy. She's like, oh man, this feels great.
Mm-hmm.
And she knows she has like all these knights watching over her. So like, why not get a good afternoon sleep? Well, she goes to sleep and she just disappears.
She disappears.
Poof, gone.
Yes.
Just gone.
I saw that she was spirited away was some of the language that I saw.
Spirited Away. Yeah.
And that has to do tie-ins with like the movie Spirited Away.
Oh,
the Japanese movie
yeah.
where that happens. And I'm like, oh, look, you see correlations between Japanese mythology.
Yeah, Spirited Away. Just poof.
Exactly.
I never even made that connection.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, holy crap. Yeah, she's literally spirited away. And they're just like, oh no, King, we lost her. We lost the queen. Oh man, you're going to get in trouble if you lose the queen.
Isn't there some language in the Bible in a few verses in the New Testament where some of the like prophets or disciples are kind of like spirited away from their locations?
I want to say whoever was talking to the Ethiopian, who was that?
This should be in my head right now.
I know.
It's not.
Well, yeah, it definitely happened. I can't remember his name either.
We're going to remember it towards the end.
But yeah, that happens in biblical texts. That happens in a lot of folklore. Being spirited away is kind of a thing.
Somehow I know like the Greek word for this, or like the translation that's used in the Bible is called herpazo. Herpazo. It's like they were herpazoed away from the Ethiopian. In that story that we were just talking about, and that literally means like to be whisked away, which kind of sounds like they teleported or like they were like transported.
Yeah, just
yes. They just like apparated, like Harry Potter tie-in.
Apparition.
Yes.
Well, but this is really kind of cool. This is, I think, what tells us this is not like a normal. These fake creatures aren't just physical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there were 60 guards there or something like that. However many there were,
and it
didn't matter because when you're using magic, like don't bring a lemon to a knife fight.
Yeah,
sort of thing. Yeah.
If you do, you got to be real good at martial arts.
Yeah,
just so good.
So where does she go when she gets whisked away?
Well, we actually don't know. Well, we find out where she goes, but for the time, we actually don't know where she goes.
So the story shifts right here. It shifts from being her kind of being the main character
to Sir Orfeo.
Sir Orfeo. Like, where's our boy Sir Orfeo been this whole time?
Well, this whole time he's been loving his wife from far and taking care of the kingdom. But now he's like, I can't function.
No, I can't do anything. Yeah.
The one who I love most is gone.
The love of my life has just disappeared into thin air.
My love and my light, it's gone. And so what does he do? He says, you know what, Stuart? You're very good.
Stuart the steward.
Stuart the steward. He's like, I
think you've been doing great at your job, and to tell you what, I'm going to promote you full-time Stuart.
Full-time Stuart. Right?
You will be doing this for indefinitely.
Well, and he's pretty much like, you take care of the kingdom. If you find out that I die,
we're gonna have like an election or like a council or something like that. Yeah,
convene a parliament.
We're gonna have a Kurultai, which is how they choose the new king for the Mongols after Genghis Khan died.
Actually, I found this part interesting because the new king would be elected
Oh, democracy.
Yeah, but probably by the nobles or something.
Little
Probably
13th century democracy.
well, this is after the Magna Carta. This was
Really?
yeah. These writings are after the Magna Carta.
When was the Magna Carta?
1215.
1215? Oh, 1215 Magna Carta. Look at that.
This was late 13th, early 14th.
You're right.
So what we're really looking at is this is probably an early point of being like there's restrictions to the king. There's restrictions to the
Constitutional monarchy.
constitutional monarchy. So we're seeing that actually present here a little bit, which is interesting.
That is interesting. It's kind of like a precedent. They're like, oh, we've never heard of this kind of government before. Oh, but they had it in Sir Orfeo. So, we should definitely do it then.
Yeah, Sir Orfeo had it, so we can do it. So, but yeah, he's like, you're going to watch over the kingdom, and he leaves the kingdom. He, in some strange way, really abandons it, which is,
It's very strange. Kings never abdicate the throne like this.
I think we need to highlight that and come back to that because it is very strange that he leaves his kingdom. Mm-hmm. That's not a thing that a king should do. In fact, his first and foremost focus should be ruling the kingdom in a way that's
Because it's his responsibility. Yeah. It's his divine right to rule.
Yeah.
It's his manifest destiny.
Yeah, exactly. And so for him to abandon it is very weird. But I do have I do think I know why he does
because he loves his wife so much.
Yeah, for the simple reason he loves his wife.
The romantic reason.
But he doesn't leave in a way that you think. You're like, okay, well, if you're going to go rescue your wife, you're going to take your 100 best knights.
Not the ones that were looking after her when she disappeared. They're all fired.
Yeah, 100 new ones.
Yeah, 100 new ones. They're all on desk duty for the next 100 years.
Yeah, and then you're going to also take your best sword.
Bow and arrow guys.
Oh, yeah.
Trackers, people who are good at following the trail.
Yeah.
Some dogs
You're
and
going to
stuff.
take everything with you.
But he doesn't do that.
No.
He doesn't take anything.
He takes a beggar cloak.
Oh.
Which is...
You just find that on the ground.
Yeah, like, hey, that's some garbage. I'm going to wear
it.
That's like a guy wearing a box. And he takes his...
And he takes the harp.
Yeah, he takes his little Celtic harp. He puts on.
I'm glad he thought about the harp. Though.
It's like his weapon of choice. Like when you're choosing weapon of choice, you can tell he's definitely bard class
because he takes the harp.
No one else, no other. The fighter, the barbarian, the cleric, the paladin. No one else is choosing to take
the burglar.
None of them.
Wait, what's my guy? Is he a burglar or is he
a rogue? Right,
rogue. He's the rogue. Yes.
Yeah, you're not going to choose to take a harp, but you know who is the bard?
The bard, unless your enemy is Fluffy from Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Well, then you do need
or the Philosopher's Stone for UK audience.
Yeah, for the UK audience out there.
And we might do the Philosopher's Stone one day in a future episode.
Yeah, we're hoping to, and hopefully soon.
Somebody send us that recipe.
Yeah, if we can get the recipe how to make it, we'd love it.
So does taking the harp assist him in his journey to find his wife?
Well, he doesn't seem to be, he seems to have pretty lost. Like he doesn't know where he's going.
He just walks into the woods.
He walks into the woods.
Why does he walk into the woods if the area where she disappeared was like the orchard? Is the orchard part of the woods?
Maybe it's not May anymore. So he's like, maybe I'll get lucky and find them in the woods because the woods is the Fey world.
Okay.
That is where.
So he has some kind of inkling about maybe what happened to her.
But he abandons what is considered the civilized world.
Mm-hmm.
I like how it highlights that during the summer he ate berries and fruit, but during the winter he ate bark and roots.
Bark and roots.
Ugh, what a diet.
Yeah, exactly. I bet he lost a few pounds.
Oh yeah, we start seeing him. He's all scraggly, has a huge beard, long hair.
Bark is the new Ozempic.
Yeah, he just looks bad.
Yeah, he looks like he fell out of the sky in Lord of the Rings and just like all barren with the beard and everything stuck in the beard. The John the Baptist sort of looking guy.
Yeah, but you know what he does? He has a fun tradition where he's like he plays his harp for the birds and the beast.
That's cute.
Yeah, like it's very Disney princess.
It is.
But it's
very Snow White.
It's a very homeless bard who's like, let me play you a song.
There's a fine line between Snow White and the guy that's making friends with the pigeons down the alleyway.
The only difference is
the setting.
Who they get married to.
Yes.
That's the only difference. Otherwise we'd be like, oh yeah, Snow White, the homeless woman.
Totally normal.
The pigeons.
So just playing for the pigeons assist him.
Not particularly, but he does see in his time in the forest, which is a long time. It's a total of 10 years.
That's crazy.
10 years in the forest. His kingdom's
just wandering around.
He
doesn't really have he has an agenda or goal, but he doesn't have a heading, a destination
No, he doesn't
in his
have,
mind.
Yeah, I mean, where do you go? Hey, my fey creature. If somebody's like, hey, the fey creatures took your wife.
This is one of the
Where
most
do you
confusing
start?
things about the story to me is his intention in the forest, because he has an idea to go into the forest because he knows that his wife was just taken out from under all these 60 people who were looking after her.
Uh-huh.
But his strategy to find her is to just wander around.
I don't know. I think at first I wasn't.
He starts off looking for her, and then he kind of gets like discouraged and kind of just
I feel like
it turns into a penance sort of thing.
Yeah, like it's still not worth going back without her. But so it's not worth going back without her. But also he hasn't found her. But what he does see, along with taking, playing the harp for some animals, he also he lives in the hollow of a tree. So that's a really unique.
Nice.
space.
He's becoming a hobbit.
Yeah, exactly. But he does see. Who does he see often? Well, not often, but sometimes the Fairy King.
Mm-hmm.
And the Fairy King is often on a hunt. He has his hounds and many knights.
So maybe he saw the Fairy King once, and that
What's that
reinforced his strategy for what to do to try to find the queen.
Yeah, I think maybe there's some kind of the story's not very detailed on what he's thinking.
No, it's not.
But I think we have to assume like this is what keeps him in the forest.
We're extrapolating a little bit.
Yeah. This is what's keeping him in the forest. He keeps seeing, but what's interesting is he can never follow him, and he doesn't know where he's going, he never hunts anything. So it literally says the Fairy King, while he's hunting, he has his hounds, he has many knights around him, but he never actually hunts anything.
He never shoots anything or like
that. And again, I do have a theory of this that is given away whenever we get into the Fairy Kingdom, but we're not quite there yet. So what's interesting is he sees him hunting, but never actually catching anything. No animals, that is. No animals. So
his strategy kind of reminds me of, I think it's Pirates of the Caribbean, maybe when they're trying to get to rescue Johnny Depp from the place he goes after he's eaten by the Kraken at the end of the second movie. And it's like they can't go to that upside down place unless they're properly lost. It's like once you don't know where you are, then you can access the other realm.
Oh, yeah, that's
and he's
cool idea.
kind of getting to that spot where he's like, maybe if I get lost enough, then I will be in the realm of the fairies.
If I become uncivilized enough, if I'm
wild enough, yes.
And he really does look wild.
I've renounced civilization and order, and I've embraced the chaos of the natural world.
Which then would allow him to come into
the
Fey world, right?
We're breaking this down way better than any of the stuff that I found on this.
Well, because we're the real scholars here.
And it's because of the green fairy here.
The green fairy. I mean, like I said, it's there for inspiration, right? Maybe Hemingway's right.
Maybe so.
For inspiration. So it's actually really. I'm starting to like it a lot. The green fairy.
Me too. I'm enjoying the absinthe that I never had tasted before tonight.
Yeah, and I do get why people say it's very black licorice tasting, but
I like black licorice though. I don't know if I like it more than red licorice because I really don't know what the difference is. But all I do know is that the Twizzlers that you can pull apart are way better than the Twizzlers that are just all one piece.
I agree.
One of them tastes like plastic,
and the other tastes like Twizzlers. Amen to that. Anyways, so continuing.
He doesn't only see the fairy king. He also sees.
Actually, one day he doesn't just see the Fairy King. Who he often sees hunting, catching nothing. He then sees a whole bunch of Fey women around the river hawking, which I thought was cool that they were hawking. I've only ever seen that at Renaissance fairs where they send a hawk after stuff.
I've never been to a Renaissance fair before. I heard they call them Ren fairs these days.
Yeah, Ren fairs is the cool, like the rad way to say it. That's the rad way to say it. But
you've been to some Ren fairs before. I know you're trying to make it sound cool, but it's also a Renaissance fair.
It's a Renaissance fair. So
no, I'm just kidding. I would like to go to that too. So I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we should definitely.
Maybe not in the summertime.
No, fall.
Winter.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
who's hawking?
A whole bunch, 60 women, and one of them is his wife.
Oh, okay.
Holy smokes!
She's just been out in the woods with these people.
60 women, which highlights two things: that they're hawking,
and that they're all women.
Yeah, and that they're all. Yeah, there's no man among them.
Strange.
Which is strange for him because the only time women would travel in the medieval world or in this Celtic space is like they wouldn't travel alone. That's dangerous. and here are 60 women just traveling alone.
Strength in numbers.
Yes,
Maybe they all wanted to go to the bathroom together, and it started off just like that.
I have a theory again that comes from like this whole like fey creatures don't follow the same like they don't have the same moral code or nature, and so they can kind of take care of themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
And if like I do think I've seen a few commercials of the Ring of Powers, and those female elves.
Elves, they can totally take care of
I think maybe
themselves.
they can take care of themselves. And so this is, but Sir Orfeo highlights, hey, this is weird. He's like, why?
It's a
why
bit strange.
they're not
Yeah.
traveling with any men? But he sees his wife, and she sees him, and immediately
They see each other.
yeah.
They make eye contact.
Oh, and they don't say anything, but tears are in her eyes, and she knows she's seeing
After a second, of
she's-
recognition, because he doesn't look the same anymore.
Well, and she also sees him come from his high place and completely fallen. Like he who was king is now less than homeless. The idea of home doesn't even exist in Orfeo anymore.
That's sad.
He is completely broken as a man. He has not his friends have been squirrels and pigeons.
It's a very meaningful look that they share.
It's so very and she weeps for him. But the other ladies recognize that he's looking at her and she's weeping for him, and they kind of carry her away.
Like nope.
Nope. Don't get involved with that guy.
No.
And they start running.
Look the other way.
You don't look at him.
That's a tramp. He's just gonna ask you for money.
Yeah, exactly. So
They take her back to the fairy realm.
well, they go horse. Their horses are going.
Does he follow them?
Oh, he does. He follows them. I love the line that it uses though. It says that they how does it say it? That they
I could look it for you.
oh no I have it. That they go through stone, or they go 3 miles.
They go through the mountain, basically. Yeah, they go
Yeah.
straight through it. Yeah,
which is crazy.
which means that the physical obstacles or limitations don't apply to them
Yeah,
anymore,
not at all.
or those under their influence.
Which is just curious. Which is just very curious. And I'm just suddenly reminded of like one of the other things he saw there in the forest many times was he would see knights and ladies, these fey creatures dancing.
Okay, so like the fairy circles that we talked about earlier.
he would see a lot of the fairy
That's
circles.
interesting.
So if you guys are thinking hunting, fey hunting, dancing knights and ladies, which are again fey creatures, they're not humans, and then these 60 women who then he follows through the rocks, which I didn't know if that meant through a cave or if they're just going through things like
It sounds like a portal, sort of. Yeah, like the platform 9 3/4 over the rocks.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely like a portal, which got me onto a weird thing. Have you ever heard of the Alaskan portals?
No, I've never heard of the Alaskan portals. What's that?
Okay, so since 1985, 16,000 people have gone missing in Alaska.
16,000?
Yep.
Since 1985. So
It
that's
could be
about
1,600 now that either way.
well, that's
it's
a factor of 10.
Yeah,
So
that's a factor of 10. One is quite a bit. One is a lot.
it's still at minimum 50 a year.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, and there's these like talks where people are like, "Oh, I stepped the road off the road for two steps, and I looked back and it wasn't there anymore." Or there are people who they walk and suddenly the temperature drops 30 degrees.
That's interesting.
Or people disappear, they come back and they're like, "Oh, you've been gone for years." I'm like, "No, I've just been gone
for a few
day."
minutes. Yeah, exactly.
These Alaskan portals, a lot of people connect it with Bigfoot and things like that, but
It sounds like the missing 411 thing. Have you heard of this?
I haven't.
It's about the number of people who go missing in national parks in the United States each year. And Alaska reminds me a lot of like that kind of wilderness where you see people who have mysterious vanishings and they end up reappearing sometimes
yeah.
in places that they have already been searched for. Like
Yeah.
they have sent out search parties and they have scoured the land where these people allegedly went missing, and yet they turn up in areas that have already been looked over.
Yeah, it's so weird. This is like one of those areas, like these Alaskan portals or things like this, or when we're thinking of Spirited Away, are like these kind of cross-cultural, like Celtic Fae stories.
They're like the window areas.
Yeah,
where-
these window areas where people just go, they're gone. And then we find them years later and they're like, oh no, it's just been a week or so.
It's so interesting, the concentration geographically of these different places.
And it's so
Like
particular.
the UK, Alaska, state parks, things like that. And there's other ones that we could
that
probably
are
talk
relatively untouched by humans.
Mm-hmm.
But, and it is that maybe we could just.
You're right.
Yeah,
Most of the time that they are places that are out in the natural world.
When I went to Alaska, it was very, very naked.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very naked compared. And the things that were more like civilization were still in the 90s.
It's easy to, yes, it did seem like stepping back in time going to Alaska. But it's easy to explain away those instances of people just being lost or disoriented or dehydrated or, you know what I mean? Like they just took a wrong turn and fell asleep or like, I don't know. It's easy for like the rational mind to say, okay, well, there's nothing
weird about
there's nothing supernatural going on here.
But
the evidence is overwhelming that there is.
It's actually a little overwhelming. And we're not just seeing it in the modern day. We're seeing it here, even in Sir Orfeo or other legends. There's so many legends about this where people disappear and they come back and these fairies.
They don't always come back, but they
Alaskan portals, fairy circles, spirited away.
Yeah.
All this is the same thing, right?
different language for different places and different times.
And
same phenomenon.
Well, anyway, so
Think about UFO abductions in the same vein too.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have an episode.
You never know.
So this Alaskan portal, I mean, not Alaskan portal. He follows them through these rocks, and just like Harry Potter, he ends up on the other side in a different magical world.
And it's like not an underground world like you would think through the rocks.
No, it's not underground. It's
like outside. It's a whole like a different countryside.
Yeah, different countryside,
different landscape, different features.
Very beautiful. And there's a big castle in the distance of like crystal and glass and gold. It's the presiding ruler who lives there. It's very beautiful in its explanation of what it looks like. So
is he still following them at this point? Okay.
He's still following them. Well, they go with their horses running into that kingdom. Can you believe he made that run? They're on horses, and he doesn't have a horse. He has a harp.
Exactly.
He has beggar clothes, and he's still running this fast. He's in love.
I'm glad he remembered the harp, though.
Oh, he never forgets the harp.
He kept it in like a tree, though, at some point.
Yeah, he kept it in the hollow of a tree.
Yeah.
It was important.
Before he got up the courage to play again. I think he was kind of discouraged for a while. And then he like started playing it for the animals and was like, oh, yeah I forgot. I missed playing the harp.
Yeah, well, it had been 10 years, right? Yeah, so... So he actually goes to the castle and he talks to the porter and he's like, hey, why don't you let me in? And the porter's like,
who are you?
Who are you? He's like, I play music. And he's like, I like music.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you're probably going to let Bon Jovi just come in. It's fine. Like, he plays music, right?
I was going to say, any Leonard Skinner? That's funny.
Got Sweet Home Alabama.
I like that. Yeah, exactly. Free bird.
So he's like, you know what? The same musicians have been playing for a long time. We need some other.
I'm sick of hearing these same songs on the pop top 40 radio.
No more. Never mind, I'm not allowed to say that here. Yeah, they're like, we need to.
If I hear Despacito one more time, I'm gonna kill myself.
No, so yeah, exactly. So like, new musicians, new lore. Oh, and you would welcome a bard in that ancient world. If a bard came into your kingdom,
should be a good thing.
Oh my God, they're about to give you new history, new stories.
Yeah,
like this is exciting.
Like what happened in the rest of the world.
They don't have Spotify where you can look up 100 different things in 1 second. It's like you have like a bard once every couple months come, maybe if you're lucky.
That's such an interesting is it called a discrepancy between now and then?
I guess, yeah.
I guess so.
Certainly,
it's not different. The same dynamic at all. Like it's so strange to have all your information and exposure and entertainment filtered through one individual.
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't know what to believe and what not to believe. But would you even care at that point? You're this is new.
This is new.
He's saying this happened. I don't know.
We love new things.
We do love new things.
We're a little skeptical sometimes, but that certainly is a space where it's like, hey, we got a new musician. We're going to let him come in, right? Mm-hmm. So they're absolutely going to let him come in.
Of course.
So they do. and
he's well received.
He's well received. Well, okay. There are people who are like, how the heck did a living human get here? Mm-hmm. Which is a weird thing to say. Because when he's looking around, who does he see? He does see his wife.
But he sees a lot of other people too who look like they're in precarious situations.
Yeah, he sees people who, and if we recall, the Fairy King said, "Hey, if you don't come with me, I will tear you apart and bring you with me."
Right, which was a very ominous threat.
Yeah, very, very.
Very thinly veiled threat.
Well, and who do we see there? But we see people who are literally look as if they're drowned. They're maybe they're beheaded.
They're being tortured.
Well, or it's rather the place that the way that they died. The way.
Oh, you're saying it represents how they died is how they are
so
in
like
this
if
world.
somebody got their, if some people would have an axe in their head, some people would be as if they were strangled. Their face would be all blue, or if they drowned, they'd be all bloated, or if they were, we're thinking like. I mean, it just kind of mentions
They had swords stabbed through them and things like that.
Wounds,
Yeah, the wounds.
Or if like just any kind of torture or natural death. And it also talks about people like women who gave birth and they died at childbirth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so you saw women like that. And so all these people that he supposed were dead, people he knew,
He saw here.
he saw in real life, and then they were here in the way that they died, which I think is a really, really dark thing. Have you ever seen Corpse Bride?
No, I've never seen Corpse Bride before.
It's a great little like animated.
Oh yeah, no,
story.
it's the
But one of the
Jack
things,
Skellington thing.
yeah, well, yeah, different story, but same thing, right? Same kind of
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, not Nightmare Before Christmas. This one is kind of interesting because what you're seeing is this like same thing as like the moment that they died is the way that they spend their afterlife.
That's cool though.
Yeah, it's kind of gory.
Yeah.
It's kind
It's a
of
neat
gory.
principle.
So we see, well, and then we start thinking about that the Fairy King that I kept on seeing hunting when he was in the woods,
Right.
and
That
he
never caught anything.
never catching animals. Well,
Ooh,
here's
I know
the
what you're gonna
thing.
say.
Yeah,
he was catching these people from their situations.
Yeah, he's not catching humans, or sorry, he's not catching animals. He is actually bringing humans to this kingdom, which
It's an abduction.
Oh, absolutely. Which then makes us really rethink what is this fairyland that we're in? What is this other world? Is this like a type of underworld?
Is this a good place to be?
Yeah, is this a purgatory? Is this like what is this?
Okay, so if you think about the parallels between this and the epic that it ripped off, the Orpheus.
Yeah, Orpheus uses Hades.
He goes to the underworld.
Yeah.
Which is ruled by Hades. There's not a fairy king. It's Hades and Persephone, his wife. But here it's the fairy king and his wife. So
Yeah.
do you think it's the same thing?
Yeah, well, that's the complicated thing because it's mixed with Celtic myth, right? So the Celtic myth, fae creatures can actually be your ancestors also.
Oh, really? So they can have like offspring?
Yeah, or they can literally be like your grandparents who died, can become fae creatures.
Oh, okay.
But they're not necessarily that. They can be that. But we don't know what tradition this is really coming from, and so it's very complicated.
It's a proto tradition sort of.
Yeah.
situation.
So, we're definitely seeing some space where we're like, oh, he's seeing people that he knew alive that he thought dead, and now they're here, and this is kind of a gory situation.
It's kind of like a purgatory as
This
well.
is
If they're
perfect for
not
October.
dead, yeah.
It's perfect for October.
Spooky
we're thinking
season.
of, spooky season, and this is really creepy, in my opinion.
Because they're in various states of dying, and they're eternally trapped there. It seems like because if they had died before, and he thinks that he recognizes them, then they obviously haven't moved on to the next destination.
Yeah, they're not like in heaven.
No,
they're not necessarily in hell
it
either.
doesn't sound like heaven.
No, not at all. But these fae creatures are still all doing their thing and hanging out, and so it's like, well, what do you do with that? I found this place very complicated. Like it wasn't a very simple answer for this. Is this Hades? Is this hell? Is this the fae?
What are they doing?
Yeah, what are they doing?
Who are the people who live here on a day-to-day basis?
I thought it was also really weird that there's people who are burnt to death there, but it also reveals that this does in fact reveal that probably the king is not hunting for like animals, but hunting for people, which is really creepy.
Right, the small mystery, the greatest game,
Yeah,
most dangerous game. That's it.
Oh, I remember that. That was good work. Such a good work. So, anyways, they're like, the fairy king looks at them and is like, "How did you end up here?"
Right.
I've
'Cause
never.
they're surprised because no one just wanders here by accident.
Yeah, no one's. Well, of course, we also know that he's been practicing the art of chaos for a long time. So he looks chaotic. He looks like a creature. He's coming into the kingdom, and he's brought in. He's
Do you
like,
think
well,
that he would have been able to get here if he had not spent all that time like acclimating himself to the chaos of the wilderness?
honestly, I think not.
Probably not. It would not have been like visible to him, or he would not have been able to perceive it.
I think that
a
he
way.
himself had become such a sense of wildness that
Okay.
he couldn't. He like now he knew how to see the fairy world.
That makes sense.
This is my suggestion. I did not know this. I can't talk to the author, but
We don't know who the author is.
Yeah. So, but this is my thinking is that
Fairy King could be the author.
yeah, the Fairy King could be the
This is an autobiographical work.
So, but he's like, you know what? Hey, I know how to play the harp. And so the king's like, well, I do like good new music. I want some AC/DC in here. So he's like, give it to me.
Down, down, down.
And so here it happens. Like he's like, I'm gonna play, and he plays the most badass thing. It's just amazing. Like it's legendary.
It's like the Stairway to Heaven.
yeah,
of
the
harp
first time
music.
it came out,
Yes.
it's just like, oh man, this is
It's like they never heard it
brilliant.
before, and it just like comes over the airwaves at the concert, and you're captivated by it.
you don't come out of that. You're like, oh my god.
It's like Jimi Hendrix at this song.
So this is what happens, and the king is so impressed, and everyone's super entertained in the court that he's like, I promise to give you anything you want. That
Name
was-
your prize.
Yeah, name your prize, because this was just freaking fantastic. It must have been a good night. They were
He must have been in a good mood.
good mood. They were drinking a Green Fairy.
They were-
They listened to this new music.
He's like, hey, I'm drinking the drink with me on it.
it has my face on
Yeah.
it. And yeah.
That's funny.
So here we are, Green Fairy drinking the Green Fairy.
He doesn't even require him to say, I'm going to stay after I give you whatever prize that you want, which you think would be a stipulation is that you can have any prize you want, but you have to stay here and perform.
No, he's like, you name your price.
Yeah.
Well, and of course, Sir Orfeo, he's
One track minded
one track minded. I want my wife back.
in a good way.
The Fairy King is like, you see how
No.
beautiful she is.
No.
You're really freaking ugly.
Yeah. Look
You're
at you,
gross,
dude.
unshaved, hairy, uncivilized, and she's a beautiful, civilized, good woman.
Mm-hmm.
You don't deserve her.
He tries to go back on his promise,
Yeah,
though.
he does. And Sir Orfeo reminds
Calls him out on it.
Yeah, he's like, you can't do that.
No, you're the king. You set an example by your words.
Yeah.
They become law.
They become law. They have to go that way.
Mm.
And so
What would everyone think if
Yeah.
you just like went back on your promise right
no
here?
one's going to trust you as the Fairy King anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He's using that human rule, right?
He has a little bit of like the cleverness that you expect from this type of story.
Yeah, well, we expect that cleverness coming from like,
A human type character.
yes, sir. I'm thinking Odysseus, honestly,
Uh-huh.
from the Odyssey.
Because you're trying to trick that which seems like it's not trickable
Mm-hmm.
in its own way.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the king agrees. He's like, all right, you're right. She's way prettier than you, but I'll let it happen.
But whatever.
Yeah. And so
She's a human anyway.
so very, very easily, he walks out of the kingdom with his wife.
It seems like all is well. He's got it in the bag.
Yeah.
Finish lines in sight.
His weapon of choice was the harp, and he won. He won the hearts of
He
everyone.
won with the harp.
He won with the harp. He,
In the,
he did not have a sword. He did not have weapons or knights with him. He won with the harp and a homeless looking like self.
That's some diplomacy right there.
Yeah, and his charisma score was 20. His charisma was way up here.
In the Orpheus rendition that I was reading, he plays the lute, I think, instead
plays
of
lute, yeah.
instead of the harp. And it said that the guy who was cursed forever to like push the boulder up the mountain. I can't remember what that guy's name is, but you know who I'm talking about. It's like one of the. He might have been a minor god or something like that.
Yeah.
But he stopped pushing the boulder up the mountain to listen to the song that he
Wow.
played. And then some other guy was cursed to like spin on a wheel.
Yeah,
He was like
yeah.
suspended on a wheel for all eternity, and he had to like spin on it or something. But
Oh,
the
geez.
wheel stopped spinning,
Wow.
and he got to listen to the song because the song was so awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and I think we're thinking the same thing with Sir Orfeo. It
Yeah.
must have been that awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
And then of course, Orpheus is where we're getting this story. Of course, Orpheus is given different rules, right?
Yeah, Orpheus is just not given Eurydice, which is his woman's name.
Yeah, that's his love, right? That's
He's
the girl he loves.
yeah, he's not just given her to return back to where he came from. There's actually a condition placed upon her return, and it's that okay, she can follow you out of here. Which remember, this is the underworld that he's in. It's not just fairy world. She can follow you out of here, but you're not allowed to look back upon her on your way out.
Okay, yeah.
You have to stay facing forward toward the goal the whole time.
On your goal, yeah.
And you can't look back to see if she's following you.
Okay. Well, that would be hard.
It would be hard.
Yeah.
Because Orpheus makes it almost to the very end and he steps out into the sunlight and he hasn't looked back at her this entire time. And once he crosses the threshold, I guess in a moment of excitedness and forgetfulness, he wants to confirm that she has followed him out into the light. And he looks back upon her and she has not yet crossed into the light.
Oh, no.
So while she is still in the shadow of the underworld, he looks back at her and sees the form of her being clutched by these hands that drag her back down into the underworld where she will remain forever.
Oh, that's painful.
But it's okay because he goes and kills himself, I think, to be with her.
Oh, what tragedy.
Yeah.
What absolute tragedy.
But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. That has not happened.
No. With Sir Orfeo, they actually just walk straight out of there.
Yeah, they're good to go.
They're good to go.
Yeah.
There's no stipulation. He already played the most badass song, so it's okay. He's like, we're out.
He earned it.
So they do head back to the kingdom, and there's a little bit of like secrecy. This part kind of reminds me of the Odyssey because he goes back into the kingdom and he pretends to be just a beggar. He actually asks his wife to stay out and some.
Yeah, he's like, she stays in some person's house. I think that they might be a homeless person, but if they're in a homeless person, how do they have a house?
Very poor person.
Yes,
Very poor.
I can't remember what the term is that it uses for this person.
Serf, maybe, or something like that. Yeah.
The beggar, whatever. This beggar's hovel that she stays at while he goes to talk to the steward.
Yeah. Which he doesn't give his identity away.
No, he's wearing the beggar's clothes.
He has his harp.
He has his harp. Is concealed, I think. Like he's just like kind of got it under his cloak.
Well, if we remember the steward, he's actually is like, hey, steward to steward. He's like, hey, I know that harp.
Oh, you got a harp there? Our old king used to have a harp like that.
Yeah, he's like, well, I found it next to some bones. A bag of bones.
It looks very familiar.
Yeah, I found it in the woods by a bag of bones.
Can you play that harp for us, maybe?
Yeah, well, and then
he plays it, I think.
Oh, that's what seems so. And he reveals his actual identity after he fakes his way all the way up.
Right.
It's crazy because the court does allow, like, a beggar gets all the way into the palace.
Which is surprising in general.
Surprising.
It's not Rasputin.
This is exactly. This isn't Rasputin like we went over some weeks back.
It's the actual king.
Yeah, and he's like, you know what? Well, his head of the state, right? Because they haven't found out if the king's dead.
They haven't done the democracy parliament yet.
Yeah, because they haven't known if he's dead yet, right? So,
how will you ever know? He could be gone in perpetuity. Yes.
So, but as a beggar, he challenges the steward. I was like, hey, how loyal are you to this guy? Kind of thing. And that
how does he do that?
He pretty much just talks about the king and his death, and like then he's like, oh, rather than usurping and taking power, he's like, well, I'm going to convene.
Because doesn't he say that he found the harp? He found the harp by some bones.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So and rather than taking control, he talks about how
the steward recognizes the harp
yeah.
as being the king's harp.
Yeah.
But he thinks that this guy is someone who just
has it.
Who just happened upon it.
Well, but he talks very good about the king. He's like, I wish you'd be back.
Mm-hmm. And to realize that he's loyal to the king still.
Exactly. He realizes that the steward is loyal to the king.
He's a good steward.
He's good. He's going to give the kingdom back or give it to Parliament. Mm-hmm. And that's when he reveals himself. He's like, hey, it's me, Orfeo. And so he's back. And he welcomes him back.
And it's been 10 years.
It's been 10 years.
Yeah.
And these subjects are like excited to have him back. Maybe his harp playing was just that good that like finally good music. But They welcome him and his wife back.
You know, some of these guys probably hadn't even like seen the king before.
Yeah. No.
They were all new. It's been 10 years. Like
10 years,
the whole generation has come and gone.
Yeah.
This is the last time that the king was here.
But here it is. Here it is. The king, the lost king, is back, and they welcome him back. It's a big celebration, and everyone loves it.
He goes to get the queen, gets the queen.
It's a queen
from the beggar's house.
Yeah,
which is weird.
Yeah. But then they honestly live happily ever after.
How often does that happen?
They go on, and the kingdom's awesome, and it's just a good ending. It's just a good.
It has a Disney ending.
Oh, absolutely a Disney ending, which is not always common.
No, not at all. Usually, it's the complete opposite of that.
Well, and when we think of what it was adapted from,
do you have any theories on like why it's a good ending?
Yeah, well. So we look at Orfeo. If Orpheus.
Yes, Orpheus does not have a good ending. When
it's a complete tragedy.
Yes, when
his wife gets bit by a snake.
Eurydice gets taken back into the underworld. Once he looks back at her, he kills himself to go be with her forever.
With some other stuff that he did in between.
So it has a little bit of like a saving grace, tragedy, bittersweet sort of thing. He gets to be with her, but he has to kill himself to do it, and they're in the underworld for eternity. So
well, it's not great.
No,
that's not like that's.
It's pick your poison sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, and she did. She got just venom bit. Like,
yeah. When he picked his too, dude. Like, come on, you had one instruction was to not look back.
Just don't look.
Just don't look back. All you gotta do is go follow this tunnel, climb up these steps, and do not look back at her.
We could definitely look into the psychology of that, like not looking back. Oh my god,
dude.
But
just don't look back.
Don't look back.
I think it would be pretty easy to do.
But, I think for the medieval world, the tragedy doesn't fit anymore. The tragedy fits for the Greek world where the gods don't really care about you, and things are going to go wrong, and the gods will just turn that. It doesn't matter.
And society is kind of okay because we have democracy and stuff like that.
Yeah. But what actually is happening, I think, in the story of Sir Orfeo, so when you read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which of course it's in the same book, it's around the same time period, mind you. Very different stories.
Mm-hmm.
Sir Gawain and the Green Knight mentions the faith a lot. It mentions like the Catholic faith a whole lot. If you remember reading Sir Orfeo, it's not extremely potent with any religious language.
Not specifically.
Literally in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, they're always like talking about the Virgin Mary. They're talking about prayer. They're talking about like heading in faith. They're talking about Christendom. Like it's part of it. It's literally built into a liturgical calendar. But Sir Orfeo is working as something else. Don't get me wrong, it is very religious in its nature, and that's why it's not a tragedy. So think about it like this. If we take the story of the grafted tree, and who else was around a tree?
Jesus.
Adam and Eve.
Okay.
The Adam and Eve story, right? Who fell from grace at the
Adam and Eve.
Exactly. Okay. Sir Orfeo, who loves his wife. You think of the church or the people of God.
So you're saying the tree and the tree of God, knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life have something to do with the grafted tree?
Oh, I think that what is happening with Sir Orfeo is it's acting as a typology.
What's a typology?
A typology is a old story. A lot of times, whenever like in old tradition, when they're reading the Old Testament, they think of everything as like a foreshadowing of something in the New Testament. So like the ark.
See.
Yeah. Protecting the church, like the Ark of the, not the Ark of the Covenant, but the Ark.
The Ark.
Noah in the Ark. Yeah. The way that it was protected. They think of the church as that ark and that protecting the people of God while they're in a flood, kind of things like that.
A lot of that is like hindsight is 2020.
Of course. Well, the medieval people do that not just with biblical stories, but mythology.
With all stories too.
All stories. And so they see Orpheus as a weird typology of Jesus.
That's interesting.
It's super weird. It's super weird. Who descends into hell. Okay, so now we start thinking about Sir Orfeo, who loves his wife, the bride, which is the church.
And she didn't do anything wrong.
Well, she did. She kind of did, but like,
what was the
she
thing
fell
that
into chaos.
Yeah.
Of course, it doesn't give her like a sin, right? Like there's no sin. It's just that she was taken by chaos.
She was kind of the victim of it.
Yeah. Which is much more of the Christian idea, is that humanity becomes the victim to this kind of the chaos
of sin. Yeah.
And so what Sir Orfeo then does is he leaves his kingdom, leaves heaven, right?
Ah, gotcha.
Descends into the wild wilderness that is the world,
And
right?
to suffer, to be
Suffer,
there.
yeah, and finally takes on and even suffers more and goes into the place of the dead. Takes on and goes there. Now the whole use of
The
music,
harp and stuff like that.
that's that Celtic touch. That's that Celtic bardism. That's that Celtic music is sacramental.
We have to keep the importance of music.
The music is sacred. And so this music idea gets transferred where Jesus doesn't fight with swords and arrows, and he doesn't, right? Like, you know, like in the Christian story, Jesus is not like this typical hero.
Sword wielding.
Yeah. He's the hero who suffers and dies, descends into hell, and then comes up with the bride.
Right.
And then brings her back to the kingdom.
That's awesome.
So my thinking is that the Celtic Christian world is not willing to accept tragedy because the God that they've now taken turns things like crucifixes into trees of life. The crucifix is no longer this horrible Roman torture device, but is a place of hope.
That's awesome.
And so my thinking is that this whole story of Sir Orfeo is the Celtic version of like re-understanding these tragedies as where God is involved in as typologies for Jesus. And so this is what's happening here in this space is what I'm thinking is happening.
I think you're onto something.
It's a wild guess. I don't have any proof. I can't talk to the author.
No,
but that's what it seems to me that's happening here. And I think that it would be kind of hard to argue against, honestly.
It's a lot better than my theory of that they had recently experienced like the Black Plague and they're like, we can't deal with any more negative endings. We got to give the people some hope. We're going to let Sir Orfeo have his bride at the end.
he has his steak and eats it too.
And the fairy world is not just like standing room only with people who have died from the Black Plague and they're just like right up next against the next person.
No, I think I do really actually think that this story is a story of hope,
redemption sort of thing. Yeah.
And Sir Orfeo, it's taking something terrible and
giving up and looking back on like he had it all as being the king. He didn't have to go down there for his bride. He could have said, I would like to have another queen.
Give me a new queen.
Exactly. I can replace them. But he did not do that. He renounced his stature as the king and said, I will give that up to go save the one. It reminds me of like the parable of like the lost sheep of
very much. Yeah, exactly.
Shepherd who will let the flock stay aside to go find the one that was lost.
Well, yeah, and it becomes this like very beautiful story of like, really what a human. I mean, like a human has to learn to do is sometimes we have to learn to step into the chaos. We don't have control over things in our life. So how do we remain that good harp player in this kind of like chaotic land?
Right.
How do we
be grounded?
Yeah, to be grounded and continue this path. And what you don't see with Sir Orfeo is him complaining.
No, I'm surprised he didn't complain at all because he was out there eating bark and bark and roots. He had it okay during the summertime because you get some berries and you got some like foliage that produces strawberries and stuff like that. But in the wintertime, things are looking pretty bad and we're digging up roots and we're at like the El Dorado phase of we're chewing on our belts out there.
Yeah, exactly. And he doesn't complain about it. Rather, he makes something of it. And he does, in the end, rescue, which I think is just an incredible like shift from the Greek. The Greek tragedy makes sense because from the Greek world, the gods don't care about you. But for the Celtics who became
shifted to this
Christian, like they're not thinking like that anymore. They're really thinking on like this arc of if our new God who we've discovered and have been baptized to, if our new God can take things like crucifixes and turn them into something good, there's no such thing as tragedy. It's yes, things are terrible and sad at times,
but we can overcome
them. Yeah, so it becomes this very empowering story.
I like that.
Yeah, it's my suspicion. I'm not positive about it, but you know, you've heard it here on Legends and Libations.
Legends and Libations first.
If it's real, who knows?
I mean, I couldn't find. Did you read a lot of commentaries on Sir Orfeo?
There's some commentaries, but there's very few.
It seemed like most people were just struggling to like get it into English a lot of the time.
Yeah,
if they weren't reading the Tolkien translation, they were translating it themselves, or I found people speaking it in directly Middle English. But there wasn't a lot of this means that and that means this.
Yeah, it hasn't taken like when we think of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, there's literally been movies of it. And I think there is some kind of movie rendering of this. I've heard theirs, but I
Really?
couldn't find it for anything. No, I couldn't find it for anything though.
What was it called?
Oh, I don't even remember. I was so frustrated trying to find
Was it a long time ago?
I think it was actually recent, but I think it was just like an adaptation of it or something. Which is funny because it's an adaptation of an adaptation of an adaptation. Right?
Exactly.
It's Virgil's adaptation of an old Greek story to then a medieval rendering of it, which then a modern one just doesn't make sense.
That's funny.
So,
But I learned a lot from this, though. Like, I'd never heard of Sir Orfeo before, and I hadn't really ever gotten into Orpheus. And to see how it transformed, like you were just saying, from a tragedy, because you know how all those like Greek stories are going to end a lot of the times before they even begin. It's like
they love
tragedy. Everybody dies at the end, sort of thing.
It's either a comedy or it's a tragedy. Everyone either dies or they all live, and everyone gets married.
Well, it's either everyone dies at the end or they don't, and then it's a comedy. But I don't necessarily laugh.
Yeah.
If it's a comedy, it's just they didn't die.
They just didn't die. Exactly. And so, yeah, that's exactly the truth of it. So, yeah, I do feel like this story really does, like, for the beginning of October, I think this story is kind of a creepy one, too. There's a lot of good touches of...
What is because of, like, how much the... I don't know if the microphone is picking me up good right now while I try to, like, finish off the very last bit of my absinthe.
I can hear you much better.
About how fairies in general are something that we should not completely like discount as a phenomenon that happens in the modern world. It might not manifest itself as a fairy, but you have these people in like these disappearing situations, like I talked about earlier with the missing 411 thing. You guys should look that up on YouTube. There's lots of documentaries about this. Is that there is something going on where people go missing and there is no rational explanation for why they have gone missing.
I think that's exactly it. Yeah. We like to discount things very easily
because we can't explain them easily.
We can't explain them. And
our human minds do not make sense of them.
It feels weird to say fairies did this, right?
Right, exactly. But so this is all part of what they call the phenomenon, and it's how through time this human abduction scenario has played out, but in different forms based on how the people at the time perceive it happening. It was
aliens.
It could have been aliens.
Portals.
Right. Portals for people in Alaska or other places. And then fairies, spirits in the Far East. Yeah. And it might just be the same enemy under a different name.
Yeah. The same experience.
The same experience. Yeah, exactly.
Very fascinating.
Something that we can't put words to necessarily to it. And we do our best to relate it to something that we can put words to of the context of the time, like fairies.
Yeah. Which is just fascinating. It's a fascinating experience. So, couple questions. First of all,
hit me.
How are we rating this absinthe? The Green Fairy, how are we rating it?
I'm going to give the Green Fairy like a 9, probably.
Me too.
Yeah.
I actually like it a lot.
I like it. It was cool.
I thought it was going to be bad or like weird or something, but like here.
I never got any resounding people who I talked to who were like, yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
It was always like, well, it's experience, or you know what I mean?
No, but I feel like this stuff is actually really
It's pretty good, yeah.
It's not overly sweet. It has that nice star anise taste.
It has that thing that makes me not want to drink it fast. Like this is like my third drink.
Yeah,
probably.
it's a good sipping drink.
Mm-hmm. If drinks are too good, you get too drunk.
Yeah. But it's enjoyable to sit with. Mm-hmm. And now I think I understand when Hemingway said, the
Green Fairy.
Yeah, drink it slowly.
Yeah.
Enjoy it slowly. And I do feel creative with it. I don't know if I'm actually creative, but man, I feel
you are creative.
I really do enjoy it. The Green Fairy actually is not a bad drink.
No, not at all.
And this,
even if it's not like the authentic recipe, it's got to be close enough for us to like feel something.
Allegedly, this is the old school recipe. That's
I wonder what changed about it. We should have looked that up.
Well, when I found it, people just said the big thing. They say most people are drinking beer and wine.
I
and
read this
all
too.
of a sudden you hit a thing that's 110 proof.
The beer and wine back in the day when they were drinking it is like low percentage.
Yeah, well,
like I feel like it was like the beers nowadays are 5.5, probably like average.
3-4 is what.
And I feel like it was like, probably maybe even less than that, because they're just doing it enough to get the water to be drinkable, because the water was probably going to kill you at that point. Dysentery. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, but then you throw. I mean,
you throw in something that's really strong from like a type of alcohol that we never drink typically, and it's just going to like knock you on your feet.
Well, of course you're going to hallucinate. Like you haven't drank this before, and if you try drinking this like beer, you're done for.
Absolutely,
you're done for. I feel very satisfied with the amount I've had, and I'm like, holy smokes, I feel it. So I'm going to stick with you and actually say 9. I'm really impressed with this drink.
Me too.
I enjoy the little sugar cube burn.
I recommend it with the experience of burning the sugar cube.
Yeah, burn the sugar cube, guys. It's worth it. Definitely, but extra soak it. Like soak it.
I think so too.
Like keep on dripping absinthe on it, because it is actually quite a.
I kind of want to drop it in there and then just like
pull it out really quick.
Yeah, I didn't ever do that. Yes, tongs.
Tongs would be good.
Future episode.
And then
send us some tongs.
Yeah, send us some tongs, and if anyone wants us to do the next absinthe, I think we need to do the Green Knight. Honestly,
there we go.
Because that's another one. Now
I'm glad that you suggested this alcohol though for this one, because I wasn't.
It's very perfect.
I wasn't sure. Yes, it does fit perfectly. I wasn't sure what we were gonna do when you suggested Sir Orfeo.
Literally, I thought, well, Guinness has a harp, but then I was like, no, but this is about fey creatures. This is about the nature of fey creatures.
And I love things about fey creatures. You know, a couple of things that I didn't get to mention during the episode about fey creatures is, you know, how they have that, they lure you in.
Yeah.
Sort of psychology about them is they want you to go deeper into their delusion. Not their delusion, but like they want their illusion.
Yeah.
And a couple of ways that you can avoid combating that I've learned through the various like podcasts that I listen to is that if they offer you something to drink or to eat, is that you should never eat or drink anything that fairies offer you.
Noted.
Because if you do, then that's just going to put you further under their spell. Think about like the Chronicles of Narnia, how when the witch takes over.
Oh, for the Turkish delight.
Yes, the Turkish delight. What is that? Once he eats it, he's done for.
He's done for.
Yes.
Well, and, you know, the same thing actually happens in Sir Gawain the Green Knight. He feasts with the fey creatures. He doesn't know they are. He doesn't know he is, but
it's part of the deception.
It's part of the deception. They treat you like your home.
Yeah, they give you a little treat, and then before you know it, you're under their spell.
I do wish in the story we got a little bit more of her perspective. That's one of the things the story did lack, was her perspective, which I really wanted to know how her experience was in the Fey world. That'd be a fun one too. Like,
sounds like it was pretty good, but who knows?
Well, I mean, there's a couple dead people hanging out, but whatever.
Another thing that was really interesting, besides not eating their food or drink, about if you feel like you're being influenced by the Fey creatures and maybe being like sucked into their realm or whatever under their influence, is that if you turn your clothes inside out.
Wait, what?
You take your clothes off and you turn them inside out, then that stops their power. Like if you're wearing a jacket, take it off, invert the sleeves, and then put it back on. And then
why?
I don't know.
It's strange.
No, it's just a thing I've heard in a couple of accounts is that they knew to turn the clothes inside out, just like disrupts the energy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I met anyone and I was trying to convince them of something, but then they took their clothes off and turned them inside out, I'd be like, nah, never mind. I don't.
Maybe you're right. Yeah, exactly. That might just be what it is. It might be as easy as that.
Actually, you can't sit with us.
Bring it back full circle. We like that. Anything else to say about Sir Orfeo? Managed to not call him Sir Oreo.
Sir Oreo?
Yeah.
Until now. I guess what was your rating on, so we got the 9 for the
absinthe
fairy. What are we giving to this legend?
Sir Orfeo.
And it's an adaptation, but I think it's done well. But there are some things that it lacks, like her perspective and his thinking a lot of times.
I'm probably gonna give it maybe like a 6. Probably.
A 6? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just because of the plagiarism that we see going on. So it's just like not
don't like plagiarism.
Not divinely inspired or anything like that. But it did latch onto some main themes, and it had an overall wholesome moral, which is like its saving grace. I think if it was lacking detail, lacking the detail to really like push it over the edge and to be a good legend, like you can see like the amount of stuff on it that we see today is very lacking, and that it must not have like taken that foothold because it doesn't have that like X factor that really hooks you in and says like, I want to be a part of this world, or like I want to know more about this world specifically.
I do have to like. There's a part of me. Okay, so there's a part of me that wants to give it like a 9 because I'm kind of obsessed with this story, but I'm obsessed with the space that it doesn't say anything. Like
The spaces in between the lines.
yeah. And that's it. It's created this very strong mystery for me, where I want to discover what Sir Orfeo is truly about.
I do like that part of it.
And generally, I think I agree with you that there's like this kind of side where you're like, come on, tell me a little more. But there's also a part of me where I'm like, you didn't tell me that part. You want me to figure it out. You want me to think through it. You want me to work through this. And I don't always want to work through things, but you're making me work through it because I have to think about it. So I guess I'm going to give it 2 scores. I understand your 6 in what it lacks, but I'm going to give it a 9 in the way that it makes me have to work through things. I love how much this work has made me think. I'm kind of obsessed with the way that it's like, I can't stop thinking between the lines of Sir Orfeo.
Right, it's between the lines.
The music of Sir Orfeo, the bard of Sir Orfeo has completely consumed me.
It's just enough to make you intrigued.
So intrigued, and I'm just like, and
the green fairy fills in those gaps between the lines.
Exactly, exactly. The green fairy filled in the lines. So here it is. It's a 6 or even a 5 if you're just reading because you have to. It's a 9 if you're drinking it with the green fairy.
If you're not singing it to if you're not singing it to yourself, it's like a 3. You got to sing it.
Interesting. So yeah, it can be very like bone dry at the if you just look at it. I feel like I've assigned this for some of my students, and I feel like
tell them to sing it.
Yeah, sing it to yourself.
Yeah, say it out loud.
I need to tell them to sing to it and also go get some absinthe.
That might be illegal. I don't know about that.
No, my students are college.
Okay.
Yeah, they probably can do it. Maybe. Anyways.
One of those gray areas.
Yeah. Anyways, I really like this story.
I do like the story too.
And I'm glad we did it. So
one day I hope we do something that's like a 3.
Yeah.
Just to like put it in perspective.
Yeah, we haven't been there yet.
No, we haven't.
It's because we keep choosing things we're kind of interested in. One day, if you guys do ever want to send us things to study, try not making
or
it
to drink.
Or to drink. We are open to drinking and
suggestions.
Yeah. So if you're like, hey, you need to try this, or hey, I'm sending you this,
put it in a comment.
Yeah, we will go ahead and do it.
Or put it in the YouTube comments. We might make a Discord soon where you can follow us and talk to us directly.
Yeah. So we'll have right now we have an Instagram, so you can write us directly. We have, of course, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We have YouTube now.
That's new. Video's new.
And then also like if we'll create a Discord for you.
We're gonna work on the Discord and the Patreon.
We will have that. Soon. Yeah, we'll have that for next week.
Thinking about putting some unedited versions of our escapades.
The unedited version.
Yes, on the Patreon.
Legends Libations, unedited. After dark. Thank you guys for listening.
We appreciate you listening to the Legends and Libations podcast. We'll see you next time.
Yeah,
it was good getting together this time with you, Jesse.
Yeah, and you too, Matthew.
I really enjoyed the Sir Orfeo that I never heard before.
Sir Orfeo and the Green Fairy.
The Green Fairy too. Lots of new experiences going on here.
Experiences.
Yes. We'll catch you next time. We might even have a Halloween episode out for you guys before big
Halloween.
date. Hopefully
before Halloween,
if we get on the ball.
Yeah. So
on the pumpkin.
So keep sipping through history.
You guys have a good night.
Good night.